Grab your hunting gear, find some shadows, and cover your ears. This is Slightly Out of Focus, where anything goes. Welcome to the first ever podcast here. It is the 5th of December, and that means Christmas is right around the corner. I am your host, Generation, and today joined with me, I have the co-host with the most, Blaze X10. And instead of just slowly weaving the show in, we've decided we're just going to go straight in, balls deep, into making a response to the hoo-ha all about Dominic Sherwood and the quite unfortunate use of a homophobic slur. If you didn't hear what happened, there is a link in the description that you can watch all the thing unfold, read all the comments that everyone's put all about this. So it happened on the 28th of November during Matt Daddario's live stream, which is part of a thing Shadowhunters do, like update kind of things. And during that live stream, Dom walked in unaware of all this thing and used the word F-A-G. So obviously that homophobic slur is not right. And the fact that they are live, Matt Daddario shut him down with that straight away. Which is good that he did, because if not, the fans would have been way more wound up about the whole thing, because there was a massive uproar about it. Every comment section, all over all their social medias, fans were just livid about all of this. So that is the reason I decided to pick this as like one of the first topics to discuss on this podcast, because I never realised how much these words were used every day, and how they're always so borderline accepted. And once I watched this, I kind of felt a bit ashamed that if Matt hadn't reacted how he did, I probably would have continued watching the live stream as if nothing had happened. Which got me thinking, is this a cultural thing? Are there words that are accepted in some places and the worst possible words you can use in other places and vice versa? So Dom is British. He was born in Kent, and I'm British as well, as you can tell. And neither of us seem to be offended by that word being used so freely. So, Blaze, as someone who is also born in the UK, and someone who is part of the LGBT community, what is your opinion on all this?
Well, in the term of Dominic Sherwood using homophobic slur, I mean, he is a celebrity, so he should be watching what he says. But in the word that we're referring to as a whole, yes, it isn't a nice word, especially towards the LGBT community. It is actually one of probably the nastiest words you could use. However, nowadays, with the overuse of the word, it's more taken in a very jokingly term, and the way that Matthew Daddario definitely took it, it was more of a bit of, I'd say, the word banter in between friends, and it was more in an offensive way. I mean, they have shown the support for the LGBT community and the young people of the LGBT community, and they are constantly showing that, and they go that extra mile to show. So using homophobic slur at least once within what Dominic thought was a private space, which sadly ended up to be a live, for it to be blown so out of proportion, I actually feel kind of sad for them, because I feel that it was more meant as like a friend-to-friend kind of thing than it was in a nasty way.
And that if Matt wasn't live, he probably would have responded in another jokingly matter.
Yeah, definitely. I think that when Dominic turned round and he said what he said, I think that Matthew definitely would have turned around and said something similar, or said something back in a joking manner, definitely. I don't think he would have freaked out like he kind of did when he was on the live.
He definitely shut him up really quick, knowing that there probably was quite young people watching his live, and that the whole Shadowhunter team, all the cast and crew, there was going to be definitely someone watching that live and monitoring it. And the moment that some of their personal life has been now leaked into the show, it's going to, like, rise some suspicion of how much he uses that word in real life.
Definitely. I mean, this definitely wasn't a good move on his career. People are now going to know him as someone who's used and uses homophobic slur. Got to take into appreciation the rules with certain words are different in different countries. You've got to remember that Dominic grew up in the UK, and that just like we did, and us from the UK, we know that if you turned round to me and you turned round to me and said that word, I'd know you'd mean it in a joking manner. I mean, it's more acceptable here to say it in a joking manner than it might be in LA, for example, or New York, or America in general.
And we're not saying that all like UK people are like homophobic monsters, because we aren't, and that's just like picking a few bad, them picking.
No, in the UK, I mean, we're not saying that everyone uses such a homophobic slur, and we're not saying that everyone's rude or anything like that. We are saying that a lot of words out here in the UK are maybe not necessarily socially acceptable in other countries. Like, we tend to, as a country, in general, we tend to use words a lot, and they end up losing meaning. I mean, one of the main swear words, for instance, people say it so often that it's lost its meaning, and you no longer take offence to it. But what I think's happened in this case is because Dominic Sherwood, because Dominic Sherwood is obviously a celebrity, people have blown it out of proportion because they might have not expected him to say such a word, and I think because he's obviously a beloved character of the show of Shadowhunters, I feel like this has been blown way out of proportion. But what people have got to know is that in the show there is it's not homophobic relationships, no, homosexual relationships. In the show there is homophobic, damn it, I keep doing this. In the show there is homosexual relationships, and Dominic Sherwood would not have been hired if he was against the LGBT community.
And we always have to remember that this is Dominic Sherwood, this isn't Jace Wayland.
Definitely. I think that because I won't spoil any of the show, obviously, but in scenes in the show there are like areas where he might not be insanely comfortable, but in the show, but I think people might be taking them scenes as well and blowing them out of proportion. You've got to realise that the character they play and the person they are two completely different people. You can't assume that they are the same person.
Because at the end of the day, he's acting, it's a job. He's being paid to read a script. The script that's been given from the writer's room, that's been gone through all the different tests to make it okay to be put out on television.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, it was just an accident, you know. With the homophobic slur, it was meant to be in their own safe space, but it turned out it wasn't. I mean, to avoid situations like this in the future, maybe have like a sign on the door saying we are live or something like that, so that people...
Or if Matt was just like, because he came in and he was like, what's up, man? And Matt was like, yo. He should have been like, yo, I'm live.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Matt Daddario should have made it he should have like explained that he was live. I think not. They could have been spoils for the show. There could have been absolutely anything said, and I feel like
he said with his clothes, they could have been props from the show, or he could have just been wearing things that aren't acceptable to be.
In regards to if we got like spoilers and things like that, I mean,
they could have been either spoilers or they could have been inappropriate for the public eye, because when he goes to work, he doesn't get chased down by paparazzi, I assume. So they probably turn up maybe dressed a bit inappropriately, maybe in like just your casual like lounging clothes that you wouldn't want all over the internet.
Yeah, I mean, especially because I know a lot of celebrities go out in disguises and things like that. You don't want something like that shown so the paparazzi can then follow you around. You kind of want your own space safe space, there you go. You want your own safe space when you're not in front of the camera, definitely. And in regards to the clothes he wears or the things he says, it was literally just an unfortunate accident that Matthew Daddario was live. But I mean, again, that should have been made known. I mean, it was on their Instagram saying that he was going to go live. It might be best that before, in the future, Dom does anything, that he might just have to check all the social media and see what's going on.
On Tuesday, especially.
Especially on Tuesdays, yeah, because that's when they tend to go live. How do you feel like how Matt took it? How did you feel about that?
He afterwards, after Dom had left, he did take it very well. He tried to play it off by saying it was a background character. He said it was a bad move by a background character, maybe hoping that people wouldn't realise it was Dom. Because he realises now that he said this word and it's out there, that could then mess up his career or people hiring in the future, maybe like any contractors or anything, they don't want someone who could be homophobic, whether they mean it or not. He said it,
Yeah.
and it's out there, and it's done. It's too late, pretty much. He can't do anything about it. He can apologize however much he likes, but people have seen it now.
I mean, and that's that. I mean, they took it down as soon as they could, but you still see clips up on YouTube and things of him saying it and proof that he's saying it and things like that. I mean, I kind of feel bad for Dom Sherwood in this scenario, but I have a lot of respect for Matt because, like when you said he tried to play him off as a background character, that was in respect to his career and respect to him as a person, and I really like how he did that in regards because he knew it was a joke, so he tried to play it off as so Dominic wasn't there kind of thing. And I did like that because I thought he's keeping an eye out for his friend and he's trying to, like, not necessarily save his career, but in a way save his career. But like,
it was like, you've said a word, don't say any more because your publicist and agent won't hear the end of it.
And I definitely feel like they're not going to hear the end of it now. I have a feeling this is going to be something that sticks with him, sadly, because that's what people are like. I mean, you can't say... I mean, what I'm going to say here is you can't say that you haven't used a swear word or a offensive word at least once in a joking manner. I mean, everyone has.
Or even by accident.
Even by accident, yeah. And I feel like it's the same with it here. It's the same with it here. It's the same situation, but because he's a celebrity and because he's in a show where there are homosexual relationships, people have instantly taken that as an offence. And in a way an attack to the LGBT community. But what you've also got to know is, for instance, they wore purple for a day to show their support towards young LGBT people. And
the Be Kind campaign.
The Be Kind campaign, yeah. And they've done a lot for the LGBT community, which the show in general didn't have to do. They've gone that extra mile to show that they support it. So having one little mishap like this, I feel like shouldn't affect it at all.
Like, if Matt Daddario himself was gay, maybe then people would try and put it together and it's like, then maybe they could be like, Dom hates his co-star and that, but like Matt Daddario's, as of now with Esther, and he's very straight, as most of the leading cast are. So obviously there's probably lots of people on the crew and all that are gay in that, but he didn't direct it to them. He directed it to straight Matt.
Yeah, I mean, Matt is straight, and we've got to also take that into consideration. I feel like it would have been even more blown out of proportion if Matt was gay, but...
Because Alec Lightwood is gay, I feel like people can't distinguish the character and the actor and how the actor's a normal person. Because everyone that probably looks at him, most of the comments will be like, Alec, or like, how's Magnus? Or if you go on anything... Even if you go on a video where they're interviewing for a completely different movie, there'll be a comment that'll be like, this is what Alec Lightwood does in his free time. And it's like, they just can't distinguish that it's Matt Daddario, not Alec Lightwood. Straight Matt, not gay Alec.
And this is another thing that we've got to consider in other actors' careers as well. I mean, for example, I'm just going to use this for as an example, but have you ever seen Doctor Who?
I've heard of it.
Well, the characters who play the Doctor genuinely find hard times getting other roles because they're then known as the Doctor.
They've been typecast.
They've been typecast as this character, and it sticks with them. So when I see, for instance, David Tennant on the screen, a lot of people I know will go, oh, that's the Doctor, you know? And I have a feeling this is going to be what's happening with Dominic and Matt, and I feel like this is going to stick with Dominic and Matt. Because Shadowhunters has become such a big series, I feel like people aren't going to know them as Dominic and Matt anymore. They're going to know them as Alec and Jace. And I feel like, in a way, it's kind of a shame because they're typecasting their character to them, who is actually very different to their personalities.
And what you see of Matt Daddario is what they want you to see. Because people are like, oh, I love Matt Daddario so much, all of that, and it's just like, I bet he's a nice guy, but it's like, you only love what they give you. So you see him as Alec most of the time, so you connect them both together, and then you see interviews about Shadowhunters. And if they're told that they have to act a certain way in those interviews, that's how you're going to see them. because that's how they're perceived in the public eye.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I think with people when they're under contract, they have to kind of act and they can't say some stuff that they want to say because it can have a huge negative impact on the company, as we've seen in this kind of scenario, definitely with the homophobic slur. So I think when people are saying, "Oh, I love Matthew Daddario" or "I love Dominic Sherwood," you are only seeing the sides that company want you to see of them. You're not seeing their true personalities. You might be seeing some of their true personalities, but only to a limit. They are very limited in what they can say and do and how they can act. And I think it's a shame because you're only seeing part of the true person of them and you're not seeing the whole of it. But it's something that in this business you kind of have to take as it comes.
And if you watch some of Matt Daddario's lives, you'll see that every so often he mutters swear words under his breath, yet no one's decided to pick that up.
I mean, it's natural for everyone to swear, but it's also natural for people to use homophobic or racist words and mean it as a joking way. Like, it is natural. Loads of people do it throughout the world, and yeah, it's not the nicest of things, but it does happen. And I feel like
it's become too, air quote, normal in society that it's gone too far, that we're getting back slowly, not quick enough, but like we've gone really far. If you like go back a few years, like lots of people definitely heavily like if you say something to a woman, you could get away with it back in the day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But now it's here, you'd get done for just like Dom did.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like back in the day, not even that long ago, I'd say, really not even that long ago, like using such words like Dom did, if he said that, Dom himself could have charges pressed against him, could be arrested. He'd be seen as like one of the nastiest persons alive because it was really rude back then. Whereas nowadays it's more socially acceptable and more, as you said, air quote, normal to say these kind of things. And we've got to really be looking at where is society going within the next few years as well, because we are looking at how normal things are to say nowadays. How normal are some even worse words going to be in the future? It's just absolutely ridiculous where everything is going. And yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to say the fact that all of this is still out there and more words are being created, more negative notations that are being added to all these words. We just need to. I feel like people nowadays take so much offense to everything. Like the littlest thing will get someone to react more than they probably should do in the eyes of other people.
Yeah, definitely. I think adding on to that with like in the eyes of other people, is it a you know, when we were talking about like the air quote normal and thing like that, is it just a UK thing for it to be normal, or is it worldwide?
Is it a UK thing? Is it a generation thing?
Is it a generation thing? Hey, sorry. Yeah, no, it is, because looking at things like, I was speaking to some people the other day who were definitely of an older generation, and they were saying how different their generation was to ours. I mean, they're saying that they can just, for instance, as we are talking now and as we are doing this podcast, none of that existed in their generation. And horrible words and gays weren't allowed and things like that. There was no LGBT community because it was wrong and it was disgusting back then. Whereas nowadays, it's more socially acceptable for being LGBT. We've got such advancements in technology. And it really is. Is it a generation thing? And with this whole, like, normal of homophobic slur, racism, and like all kind of things that are counted as normal nowadays, swear words as well, is it just a UK thing for someone to say the homophobic slur that was used in this scenario?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Like, I haven't heard it anywhere else. Like, I don't think I've been in the right situations anywhere else. Maybe if we lived there for a while, maybe we'd start to hear it. But I think each location on the world, each country, that's a better word, each location on the map, wherever you live, there's a word that means more than it does somewhere else.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, obviously I'm someone who is from England, and And when I went out to LA, I'd say just about 4 weeks ago, I went out to LA. And when I was there, people were definitely more polite. People were genuinely quite nice and asking how your day was. I mean, you don't really get that here. You get very little conversation with other people. And I didn't
The
realise...
Brits just keep to themselves. We're sad beings.
We're antisocial in England. But no, in America, people went out of their day to go, how are you and how's your day? They said please and thank you, and they were very polite, and I heard very little swear words at all, very little, and I was quite surprised as someone who is from England and hears a lot of swear words and a lot of homophobic and racist words on a daily basis.
Too much so.
Way too much so. But when I was in LA, in America, there was none of it. I heard none of it, and I don't know whether because I was only there for a week, I didn't hear it. But you could definitely tell that there was a big difference in the language barrier. Definitely. And I think in this term, it is more of a normal thing in the UK for people to use such homophobic slur than it is in America. Which is another reason why it could have been blown out of proportion.
It's probably also blown out of proportion because the people watching it or the people commenting will be of a younger age where they've been taught even more than we have how bad homophobic language is and how it could offend someone more. So I think it'd be as if someone came up to us and said something really racist and we were just like, you can't say that. Like the N word or something would be like, that's just inappropriate completely. Whereas if you're slightly older, you'd be like, oh, I grew up with that word. Our neighbours were those. Or it's like, it's too mainstream.
Definitely. It is too mainstream. What I'd have to say, though, is from someone who... were you there when the live actually happened, or did you watch it after?
No, I watched it after.
See, for someone who still, watched it after, because obviously I watched it as well, as, a general public citizen, what did you think about the whole scenario?
Well, I watched it, and I just watched the whole live, and it wasn't until I saw there was an apology where I was like, maybe this is a bigger situation than I thought it was. Because I just watched it. Because if Matt Daddario didn't react like he did, he was definitely telling him to stop, straight away. That was very clear. If Matt didn't do that, I would have just been like, oh, that's normal. I hear that every day.
Yeah, no, definitely. As someone who also watched it, I mean, I didn't watch the full live. I only watched the kind of clip in where Dominic said the homophobic slur. But when I was watching it, even knowing what I was watching and waiting for it to happen, I still took it so casually. I didn't think much of it until again we spoke about the apology and when Matt kind of was like no and kind of stop and things like that. Until Matt made a big deal of it, I didn't realise it at all. See,
he said the word, and I was like, is that it? Everyone's fussing about that. But I do see how other people have taken it to offend.
Yeah, I mean, there are such worse words to use. I mean, the word he did use isn't the nicest, I will admit. But there were such worse words he could use, and I don't know why it's been so exaggerated and so blown out of proportion in returns of it could have gone a lot worse. You know, that's quite a casual word, but again, is that just casual in the UK or is it casual everywhere? What do you think in terms of with the homophobic slur and the age difference between them as people and the audience, or the generations? Again, we're gonna kind of go back to this. What do you think?
Well, they're older. They've been around longer. They've been open to everything longer. And so I do feel like it's a shield that you build up after a while. So I bet they did hear all these words have been used around, and whether you like it or not, they have come into your diction, and you can't really help that. I sometimes have to think that word's been used so much. There's sometimes I just want to be like, you are a, and then I'm like, no, because that is really awful, and that's not what I mean. Like, that the word doesn't really mean anything particularly bad, but it's the bad notation that's been behind it.
I feel like with their ages, like you said, like they've built up a resistance after getting maybe called such words, or like called similar words in both non-joking and joking matters, especially with the business they're in. You can definitely tell. I mean, as a younger person who's maybe not been called homophobic slur, or have had racism thrown at them, or heard it like in general a lot, it's definitely going to be more of a shock than to someone who has heard and has joked around with such terms both growing up and in the different generations kind of thing. So I feel like with the people who kicked off, it is a very big generation type of thing, whether both with the LGBT community as to people who do take offence and who don't take offence to it, and with, in general, people who might have heard it less and people who might have heard it more, because with different ages, different things are acceptable. And it's the same with countries. In different countries, different things are acceptable. And that is something we've really got to keep an eye out when looking at such situations.
But thinking about people's like opinions changing on him, there's so many videos of him smoking, yet no one bats an eye about that. But the moment something's said about the LGBT community, tables have been flipped. And everyone's like outraged about that. Whereas it's like, there's other habits that people do and they just get brushed under a rug.
Definitely. So you do realise that there are different laws within the two places, and you've got to take that into account. I mean, Dominic Sherwood, I mean, yes, the people who watch the show are genuinely quite young, because it is a show which, in a way, may not be meant to be catered towards young people, but it is something that young people will love nowadays. Shadowhunters is. It's something... Yeah, sorry.
So, I was just gonna, like, interrupt this, because I was just like, I remember watching a Dom Sherwood live, and he was drinking beer. He was drinking through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And no one was like, oh, you're drinking, that's so bad. Because he made a joke about his drink. They went, what are you drinking? And he went, water, and then drunk his beer. And like, that he made a joke, and everyone was like, oh yeah, that's really funny. And the moment he decided just to kind of make another joke, in a way, it's just...
no longer funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you were speaking about how the LGBT community is like an open wound, I can definitely like agree to that. Like, when talking to other LGBT people, I found, as someone who's in the LGBT community myself, I try very hard not to offend someone, because I feel like the LGBT community, as much of a community as it is, can take offence exceedingly easy.
In a world where everyone takes so much offence, it's difficult to stay on the right line not to offend anyone. So when you do offend someone, it does get blown out of the water. But if you just try and try your best not to, you should be fine.
I mean, I tend not to talk to as many people now. I tend to just try and keep topics away, or just talk about similar interests now, because you're so worried. People are so worried about offending other people nowadays that it's difficult to try and act like who you are and who like how your personality is, because people are going to either like you or hate you, and people are more worried about them hating you than them liking you.
People will define you in so many different ways. The moment they look at you, they'll judge you by your outward appearance. Then you introduce, they judge you by your name, maybe your age, and then it's what you're into. And then further back away, people then worry about your personality. But even if you just said something wrong before, like, they got to know you at all, their opinion on you would just change.
Oh, definitely. I mean...
and there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, as myself, someone who has a very foreign name, people instantly ask what country I'm from, and kind of assume things of me which are not true. And And because of the name that I have, and because it's not obviously an English name, as from someone who's England, I also have a slight accent to me for some whoever knows reasons. But people assume that I'm not English. People assume that I'm other things, or I like certain things because of the name the country my name is from. People assume that I like to do things that associate with that country. And I do feel like there's definitely, people have to label something on you nowadays. People have to say that you have an input into your life, when, to be honest, it's just completely none of their business. I feel like people are going to judge you no matter what. People are going to talk about you no matter what, because this is the type of society that we're growing up in nowadays. Nobody cares really about you as much, but they care more about the gossip behind you, or the gossip that could be created because of you.
And then especially if you're in the public eye, everything's just excelled. If you're in acting, they don't care about who you are, they just care about the role you're in.
Yep, definitely. And what you've done, and what you've done in the past, which might not be completely as acceptable anymore. People really, especially in the public eye, because then you've got so many more opinions, especially things on like social media. People can comment things anonymously so much nowadays, and people can say stuff by the comfort of their own home, which people have done in this situation. People have had a go at people in the comfort of their own home, and I think in person, if they were to talk about it with Dominic, I feel like there'd be less in a way negativity towards it, because I feel like you'd be able to understand more. Whereas in this situation, because everyone was in the comfort of their own home, allowing to freak out anonymously and allowing to say nasty things back to him, I think he's had to force an apology regardless. I mean, yes, what he said wasn't right, but he still had to kind of force an apology to keep the public eye happy. And it's all there is a huge, very big, like, public image around things, and I feel like that's something we've got to kind of watch for the future. It's like, everyone is human, everyone's going to make mistakes, every human's probably done.
And when you post things, especially on social media, maybe it is from way back when, but it will come back to haunt you. Like, someone will find it. Even if you wrote it before, like, maybe before fame or anything, before people knew who you were, they'll just go back, and maybe you wrote it when you were 9 years old, and now you're 20 and you know what you were on about, and it just comes back and you're just like, I didn't mean that, or I didn't mean it how it was, but it's there, and it's too late to do it. So it's like, if you're Dom Sherwood right now, what would you do?
If I was, for me personally, I know that I'm very much in the public eye. Not in a case of people know who I am necessarily, but in a case of I have a lot of social media. I have everything on social media, because as someone who was struggling to make friends, I resorted to social media, and I have stuff I regret on there. I have stuff I can't get rid of. I have done things I regret on there, and honestly, I know that if I was Dom, then a lot of the stuff would be coming back to haunt me at the moment. But in this scenario, I would apologise. I mean, Dom's done the right thing, but I'd also definitely get into a heart-to-heart YouTube kind of talk, and I would be explaining, and I would be talking about it, on how I know it was a bad word, but it was also a side. I'd also be talking, kind of like everything that we've covered now, I would be covering in more of a general conversation, because I feel like just apologising is not getting the matter through enough. I feel like having a one-to-one sit-down with, like, in a way, Dominic Sherwood and YouTube, not necessarily YouTube as a people, but, like, on YouTube, explaining how it was, and maybe even Matt having an input, maybe saying he wasn't offended himself, because that would definitely lighten heart the situation. I feel like it would be better. I feel like it would definitely make people understand more, and yeah, definitely. What about you? What would you do in this situation?
Well, I definitely wouldn't avoid it. Like, beating around the bush is not the way to go about this. He just needs to go head on and have an apology that wasn't in a way that was very scripted. That was very, I'm your publicist and this is your script. You're an actor, so you can act this script out as the apology.
I mean, the words he was using were very fancy, And I don't think
they weren't very British. If you were from Kent, you would not be using that lingo.
Especially if you're from Kent. No offence to people who live in Kent. I mean, my auntie lives in Kent, but...
I was going to say, if he did that apology and he had his American accent on, that would have been, like, the final straw. He definitely wouldn't have been apologetic then.
Yeah, I think he has definitely more acted it out, and I don't like that. It is not the apology we're after, in a way. But in a return, if he does say something wrong in the apology, that could be the end of his career. And it's such a big thing that I can understand why it was very scripted, but at the same time, I don't like how it was scripted. Definitely don't like. I feel like there should be something, like I said, like maybe a YouTube video of him just sitting down, explaining and apologising from a very sincere and heartfelt thing. But he didn't mean it how it came out, and everything like that. But obviously, as someone who is quite famous and who is definitely gaining in popularity, especially with the new season coming out, no promo, but yeah, I feel like this had to be scripted, and I feel like he couldn't be very heartfelt because of the situation they were in. I mean, they had basically the LGBT community against them.
They're told what to do, and the moment something goes wrong, like, everything hits the fan, and they need to get it right. Like, his career is, like, in danger, and he needs to fix it. He knows he's done it. He knows it's gone bad, and I bet, like, a few days after, just on set, there's probably this atmosphere that he's just like, well, I've messed it up now.
Definitely. I feel like there is going to be an atmosphere, especially for a while as well. And he's definitely going to have to watch what he does on set, because the directors and everything will not be happy with what's happened, because it's going to cause the business probably a lot of money to fix this up, because that's what happens when something's wrong. People use money to fix it, and that's not right either. I feel like this is a problem that should have been, like, addressed definitely more seriously, but at the same time, it's something that we're just going to have to, in a way, not completely, it's just something that we're going to have to, in a way, let go of for the sake of the show that we love.
You just got cut off there completely, but I bet you said something very good.
You sometimes get cut off as well. I was basically saying, I've
been talking to no one this whole time.
No, not completely. It's just sometimes, but then
sometimes. It's like, did you like this point? Yes.
I loved it. No, but do you think that over this whole shenanigan with the homophobic slur and Dominic Sherwood, do you think Dominic should be losing his job over it?
Definitely not.
Would you like to elaborate?
I'm trying to think, child.
Elaborate. Elaborate. Would you like to elaborate?
I would.
Good.
I feel like this is such a petty thing for him to lose his job over if he does. I know some people are offended, but like we said, people get offended over nothing. And like, if you did get offended over this, I'm sorry. This is so, like, attacking you. I'm sorry. I feel like I should stop talking now, because I'm gonna offend everyone.
No, but like I can agree with you.
Whoa. Yes.
Okay.
There is no pleasing people. You can't please everyone, so please as many people as you can, kind of thing. Make that sound good.
Why are you telling me to make that sound good? Make that sound good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not going to be able to please everyone, because everyone is not happy with everything. Something that might make one person happy will offend another, you know, and that's the kind of thing that our world is coming to nowadays. But, you know, you just got to kind of just stick to who you are, and people will like you or people will hate you for yourself. And I definitely think over such a trivial matter of, in a way, jokingly use a homophobic slur, which Dominic thought was in the comfort of their own trailer without having anyone else there, unknowing to his knowledge that he was actually on live, I felt like this is a pathetic reason as to why he should be losing his job, because I don't think he should. I think it is so trivial, and I think in a way kind of pathetic that it's been made such a big deal and that his job is at risk, because he's an amazing actor, he's quite a funny person, and I feel like because people have blown this way out of proportion, it's just going to affect his life forever, and I think it's ridiculous. I do.
Then there, but he is not everyone, and everyone isn't him. He's got a different lifestyle than everyone else has, and there's only a certain amount of things that he can do to make everything right again. Whether that apology was enough for some people, or whether people's idea of him have been tarnished forever, there's nothing he can do about it.
And no, definitely. And
only time will tell what will happen. If he loses his job, that's pathetic. There's so much. This happens every day. If you leave the house, you'll hear so many words that if you took everything to offence every day, you wouldn't be able to leave your house. You'd be like stuck in your house forever. So you just have to like suck it up.
Just have to suck it up. I love how you threw that in there. Oh, no, definitely.
So if you have made it this far, thanks for sticking around, for one. This is a very serious topic for some very casual people to talk about, and so we didn't want to like downplay it by making like some stupid jokes or anything. So hopefully podcasts in the future will be more relaxed, and this is the first one, and so we're just seeing what goes about, if people actually like this. But we want your opinion on this whole situation of, do you think it was right that he said it? Do you think it was wrong? Do you think allegations that are going to following him for like years to come, do you think they should be there or not? Just so let us know in the comments below, or wherever the comments are and wherever you're watching this. And if you have any other inquiries, you can email us at soothinquiries@outlook.com. And something positive you can do in this negativity-filled world known as Earth, go comment on anyone's photo and just tell them that they look nice or something you like about them. Maybe if they're in the LGBT community, say some really nice things towards them. That one simple comment could just make someone's day. And we just need some niceness. Niceness, that's a word. Kindness. But next week we'll be covering body confidence. There is a link in the description somewhere, wherever the description is, to a questionnaire that will ask you a few questions. That'd be awesome if you filled that out. We'd like to hear your stories about body confidence, any questions you might have about body confidence, or whether you're actually comfortable with your body. That'll be on Tuesday, and we will post a podcast every Tuesday. So until then, stay kind, stay positive, and like I always say, it gets better.